In Defense of Women by H. L. Mencken, Chapter 1, The Feminine Mind. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Feminine Mind. 1. The Maternal Instinct. A man's womenfolk, whatever their outward show of respect for his merit and authority, always regard him secretly as an ass, and with something akin to pity. His most gaudy sayings and doings seldom deceive them. They see the actual man within, and know him for a shallow and pathetic fellow. In this fact, perhaps, lies one of the best proofs of feminine intelligence, or, as the common phrase makes it, feminine intuition. The mark of that so-called intuition is simply a sharp and accurate perception of reality, an habitual immunity to emotional enchantment, a relentless capacity for distinguishing clearly between the appearance and the substance. The appearance, in the normal family circle, is a hero, a magnifico, a demigod. The substance is a poor mountebank. The proverb that no man is a hero to his valet is obviously of masculine manufacture. It is both insincere and untrue. Insincere because it merely masks the egotistic doctrine that he is potentially a hero to everyone else, and untrue because a valet, being a fourth-rate man himself, is likely to be the last person in the world to penetrate his master's charlatanry. Who ever heard of a valet who didn't envy his master wholeheartedly, who wouldn't willingly change places with his master, who didn't secretly wish that he was his master? A man's wife labors under no such naive folly. She may envy her husband, true enough, certain of his more soothing prerogatives and sentimentalities. She may envy him his masculine liberty of movement and occupation, his impenetrable complacency, his peasant-like delight in petty vices, his capacity for hiding the harsh face of reality behind the cloak of romanticism, his general innocence and childishness. But she never envies him his puerile ego. She never envies him his shoddy and preposterous soul. This shrewd perception of masculine bombast and make-believe, this acute understanding of man as the eternal tragic comedian, is at the bottom of that compassionate irony which passes under the name of the maternal instinct. A woman wishes to mother a man simply because she sees into his helplessness, his need of an amiable environment, his touching self-delusion. That ironical note is not only daily apparent in real life, it sets the whole tone of feminine fiction. The woman novelist, if she be skilled enough to rise out of the mere imitation into genuine self-expression, never takes her heroes quite seriously. From the day of George Sand to the day of Selma Langdorf, she has always got into her character study a touch of superior aloofness, of ill-concealed derision. I can't recall a single masculine figure created by a woman who was not, at bottom, a booby. 2. Woman's intelligence. That it should still be necessary at this late stage in the senility of the human race to argue that women have a fine and fluid intelligence is surely an eloquent proof of the defective observation, incurable prejudice, and general imbecility of their lords and masters. One finds very few professionals of the subject, even among admitted feminists, approaching the fact as obvious. Practically all of them think it necessary to bring up a vast mass of evidence to establish what should be an axiom. Even the Franco-Englishman W. L. George, one of the most sharp-witted of the faculty, wastes a whole book upon the demonstration, and then, with a great air of uttering something new, gives it the humorless title of, quote, "The Intelligence of Women," end quote. The intelligence of women, forsooth! As well devote a laborious time to the sagacity of serpents, pickpockets, or Holy Church. Women, in truth, are not only intelligent, they have almost a monopoly of certain of the subtler and more utile forms of intelligence. The thing itself, indeed, might be reasonably described as a special feminine character. There is in it, in more than one of its manifestations, a femaleness as palpable as the femaleness of cruelty, masochism, or rouge. Men are strong, men are brave in physical combat, men have sentiment, men are romantic, and love what they conceive to be virtue and beauty. Men incline to faith, hope, and charity. Men know how to sweat and endure. Men are amiable and fond. But insofar as they show the true fundamentals of intelligence, insofar as they reveal a capacity for discovering the kernel of eternal verity in the husk of delusion and hallucination, and a passion for bringing it forth, to that extent, at least, they are feminine, and still nourished by the milk of their mothers. Human creatures, says George, borrowing from Weininger, are never entirely male or entirely female. There are no men, there are no women, but only sexual majorities. Find me an obviously intelligent man, a man free from sentimentality and illusion, a man hard to deceive, a man of the first class, and I'll show you a man with a wide streak of woman in him. Bonaparte had it, Goethe had it, Schopenhauer had it, Bismarck and Lincoln had it. In Shakespeare, if the Freudians are to be believed, it amounted to downright homosexuality. The essential traits and qualities of the male, the hallmarks of the unpolluted masculine, are at the same time the hallmarks of the Schlosskopf. The caveman is all muscles and mush. Without a woman to rule him and to think for him, he is truly a lamentable spectacle. A baby with whiskers, a rabbit with the frame of an auroch, a feeble and preposterous caricature of God. It would be an easy matter, indeed, to demonstrate that superior talent in man is practically always accompanied by this feminine flavor, that complete masculinity and stupidity are often indistinguishable. Lest I be misunderstood, I hasten to add that I do not mean to say that masculinity contributes nothing to the complex of chemico-physiological reactions which produces what we call talent. All I mean to say is that this complex is impossible without the feminine contribution, that it is a product of the interplay of the two elements. In women of genius, we see the opposite picture. They are commonly distinctly mannish, and shave as well as shine. Think of George Sand, Catherine the Great, Elizabeth of England, Rosa Bonheur, Teresa Carreño, or Cosima Wagner. The truth is that neither sex, without some fertilization by the complementary characters of the other, is capable of the highest reaches of human endeavor. Man, without a saving touch of woman in him, is too doltish, too naive and romantic, too easily deluded and lulled to sleep by his imagination to be anything above a cavalryman, a theologian, or a bank director. And woman, without some trace of that divine innocence which is masculine, is too harshly the realist for those vast projections of the fancy which lie at the heart of what we call genius. Here, as elsewhere in the universe, the best effects are obtained by a mingling of elements. The wholly manly man lacks the wit necessary to give objective form to his soaring and secret dreams, and the wholly womanly woman is apt to be too cynical a creature to dream at all. 3. The masculine bag of tricks. What men in their egoism constantly mistake for a deficiency of intelligence in women is merely an incapacity for mastering that mass of small intellectual tricks, that complex of petty knowledges, that collection of cerebral rubber stamps which constitutes the chief mental equipment of the average male. A man thinks he is more intelligent than his wife because he can add up a column of figures more accurately, and because he understands the imbecile jargon of the stock market, and because he is able to distinguish between the ideas of rival politicians, and because he is privy to the minutiae of some sordid and degrading business or profession, say soap selling or the law. But these empty talents, of course, are not really sounds of a profound intelligence. They are in fact merely superficial accomplishments, and their acquirement puts little more strain on the mental powers than a chimpanzee suffers in learning how to catch a penny or scratch a match. The whole bag of tricks of the average businessman, or even of the average professional man, is inordinately childish. It takes no more actual sagacity to carry on the everyday hawking and haggling of the world, or to ladle out its normal doses of bad medicine and worse law, than it takes to operate a taxicab or fry a pan of fish. No observant person, indeed, can come into close contact with the general run of business and professional men. I confine myself to those who seem to get on in the world and exclude the admitted failures, without marveling at their intellectual lethargy, their incurable ingenuousness, their appalling lack of ordinary sense. The late Charles Francis Adams, a grandson of one American president and the great-grandson of another, after a long lifetime